Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Daily Turn Up. Thank you so much for joining us. I am incredibly sick right now, fighting through the pain to give you the best quality content we can possibly imagine. And I just want to say thank you to the 150 that listened. We finally got back up over the hurdle. We thought we were done. We thought we were out. We thought our parents had to listen 100 times consecutively to get us back up to those numbers, but it was you, and we thank you for that. CK, how you doing today, man? How you feeling? You doing better than me?
I'm definitely doing better than you, MR. And I will say it's been a great week for conspiracies.
Ooh, you got some good ones for us today?
Yeah, I'm going to sprinkle them in like Salt Bay. That's a
Oh
callback,
man.
eh?
Yeah, you ain't kidding. All right. Well, CK and I had this great itinerary broken down, what we want to talk about. We really want to jump into Canada again without everything going in Alberta. We want to talk a little Israel. And then the world happened. And CK, I'm thinking about actually creating a bingo card for world events of what could possibly happen because so much crazy shit has happened this year and we're only in May. And I think this Pakistan India conflict that's breaking out or could potentially expand wider will paint Israel and Gaza, Russia and Ukraine like secondhand news because the amount of people living in India and Pakistan, just from a population standpoint, a hatred standpoint, having conflicts for years and decades blows everything else out of the water. So let me get all of our listeners up to speed real quick because there's so much information going on, and then CK, I'm gonna hand it right back over to you. So if you are not glued to the news, staying up with current events, here's a quick little summary. Tensions between India and Pakistan have sharply escalated following India's launch of Operation Sindoor, a series of missile strikes on May 6, 2025, targeting 9 sites in Pakistan and Pakistan controlled administrative areas. India stated that the strikes were in retaliation for the April 22nd terrorist attack in India, which killed 26 civilians and claimed the targets were linked to militia groups. And I'm looking at the names of how to pronounce these militia groups, and I just can't. So I'm not even going to embarrass myself here. Pakistan reported that the attacks resulted in at least 31 civilian deaths, including women and children, and condemned the strikes as an act of war, vowing retaliation. In response, Pakistan claimed to have shot down 5 Indian aircrafts and initiate cross-border shelling, leading to further casualties on both sides. And then CK, I think 1 hour before we started recording this episode, Pakistan launched some missiles over too. I haven't confirmed that. I just got like the updates on my phone, so I haven't read the articles to confirm that that happened and it's not fake news. But it looks like India fired some missiles back into, or sorry, Pakistan fired some missiles back into India. So this is escalating. This isn't cooling down. I don't know if this is the last punch and then the world's going to get involved and be like, cut it out. But I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm happy with how you described it if tensions rose after India fired missiles because what started this was a militant group um, claimed to be backed by the Pakistan government, killed 26 mostly tourists. So, kind of similar to the how Israel and Palestine heated back up in the October attacks. What was that? 2 years ago, MR.
Yeah, about 2 years ago.
And so that's what spun things up again. Today, I don't see any missile attacks.
Well, that's a fair point. This isn't the India strike isn't like the initiator of the conflict, right?
Not in a
There's something
vacuum, yeah.
that the terrorist attack. Well, I mean, can you give us a quick little history breakdown? Haven't they hated each other for like decades? Weren't they all like one country under the British Empire? Then India broke off
Yeah.
from British rule, and then they decided to split the country up based on religion, if I remember my Indian history correctly, and that's why you have a Pakistan and an India that hate each other from just like religious reasons.
Almost every conflict today begins is
With
being
the British.
divided by the British Empire. Yeah. 1947 they partitioned it into India and Pakistan, already sparking like displacing millions. What is this? This sounds exactly like Israel Palestine.
Yeah, right. This is like 2.0.
So first Indo-Pak War over Kashmir, 1947. Second Indo-Pak War, 1965. Third Indo-Pak War, 1971. The Kargil War in 1999. Pakistan infiltrates Indian-administered Kashmir. A lot of it has been fighting over Kashmir. and just border disputes.
Is that just a
Uh,
way that they can take out their frustrations, or or is this land valuable? Does it have like minerals? Does it have gold? I don't know. Lithium? Does it have something actually worth fighting over, or is it a pride standpoint and they just want to kill each other because they hate each other?
well, both Kashmir is home. Both countries claim, like, India claims there is a majority of Hindus in Kashmir, and Pakistan claims there's a majority of Muslim. So I think the big news is that there's a lot of both, and that's mostly
Gotcha.
why they're fighting. Um, there's a parliament attack, Indian parliament attack by Pakistan-based militants, and killing 14 in 2001. And then just been terrorist attacks all through the 21st century, and then another one in 2025. So they are not friends. They haven't been friends since their existence. You can probably blame the Brits for that.
It's always a safe assumption.
Yeah.
So if you're saying that, hey, there's been a lot of attacks happen, essentially every decade at least once. Is this
Yeah.
just another little, hey, they just want to throw some punches at each other? We shouldn't get riled up thinking that this will break out into a greater conflict like Russia, Ukraine, or Israel and Gaza? Like, is this kind of nothing like, hey, we're going to go away from the news cycle in about a couple weeks, or is there something more here?
All of it's so hard to predict. So many things happen, and most things are nothing, but some things aren't nothing, and when they aren't nothing, it's huge. So you
Yep.
can, I want to be the, confidently say this will fizzle out, but I could be, the dumbest person ever, like, when this escalates to, like, the first nuclear conflict, because, like, the way, I mean, no one would have predicted COVID, no one would have predicted Russia. I mean, people probably did predict Russia, Ukraine, but a lot of these news events, no one really predicts, and most people will say this is a nothing burger, and then boom.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that India and Pakistan signed some deal where they would only fight with dumb weapons. They wouldn't use smart technology and nukes in order to keep from going to a nuclear war. Because unlike Russia, Ukraine, or Israel, Gaza, or honestly any war ever, we have never seen two near peer adversaries with nuclear capabilities directly fight each other. Yes, we've seen a ton of proxy wars, an astronomical amount of them, but we have never seen neighbors with that type of weapon actually fight each other.
Yeah, they're not near peer, but nuclear is.
Well, near peer and nuclear.
Yeah, if there were no nukes, I think you said this, talking to me before. If there were no nukes, Pakistan wouldn't even exist.
Totally
If
agree,
in, if
100%.
India hadn't taken them out, we would have taken them out. So I that's the big question. It's like, so there's two nuclear countries, they're fighting, and Pakistan doesn't have, like, one nuke. Like, North Korea might have a nuke that might be able to get off the launch pad,
Maybe.
maybe, if the weather's good between here and Guam, or like, or it might just, like, destroy North Korea because it explodes. Pakistan has hundreds of nukes, and so they share a border, so it's not a far shot.
Yeah, and so with all that being said, if I was a betting man, which I can be sometimes, all jokes aside, I don't see this escalating too much. Now this may escalate where thousands die potentially, just more intense skirmishes along the border. But I definitely think it's going to stop way short of actually preparing for an actual military invasion of any kind. Because regardless of what they sign, papers going right out the window when their national sovereignty is at risk. And I just don't see either country crossing that line, putting the other one in a position to fire nukes. Because here's the thing: whoever nukes each other, because they're neighbors, it's going to drastically impact them as well. It's not like you're firing a nuke on the other side of the world, like, maybe the nuclear winter, all the cons of firing a nuke won't hurt us. They are literally your neighbor. You are going to suffer as well.
Well, it's not just from suffering from launching the nuke. You're going to get 100 on you. That's the gamble of mutually
Sure.
assured destruction. It's like, it works and keeps things from total war until it doesn't. The one time it doesn't, though, is one time is enough.
No, you're exactly right. You're
And
exactly right.
I mean, we've had nukes for 80 years now, and so far, so good. The only time we've launched nukes is when we were the only country who's had it. So we weren't.
Yeah, and if you look at those nukes today, like we have bombs that are almost that strong. You know, regular bombs. Like the nukes that they have today are like insanely bigger, like
But
astronomically bigger.
yeah, but also we launched it because there was no retaliation. We were the only
Oh,
country at
sure.
war with them. Since then, it's been mutually assured destruction has been the strategy for every single nation with nukes.
Can we go down a
And
rabbit hole real quick? I'm sorry to
yeah,
interrupt you. I'm
lead
sorry.
the way.
This when Oppenheimer came out, I started having this conversation with people around me. Do you think using a nuke in World War II and seeing the devastating impact that it holds was a deterrence in itself from a country ever using it again? Like, say we didn't use it in Japan. Japan surrendered prior to using it, and we didn't actually
No,
know the capabilities of a nuke.
no.
That we would have used it.
You know why I don't think so. I think we would have used it many, many more times. Um, the
Oh my
way
god!
the way we tested nukes, we shot a nuke into space over Hawaii, and it looked like a second moon for like a day.
Oh my god! That's
We were
terrifying.
tested. We shot nukes underwater. We're like, let's see what happens. It was worse underwater than it was on land, and also like killed every fish, and radiation spread like crazy. We were so dumb and careless with nukes for so long, and
So
it
why
was
do you
only
think
because
no we never used a nuke again then? Because
because
Russia didn't get them for another 8 years, or at that time the USSR didn't get it for like another 8 years, right? If we developed ours in 44, I'm pretty sure they didn't have theirs like 53. I don't know, can I Google
I
that real quick?
but you can by the next time I think it was necessary to use a nuke. The gun was also to our head. It was murder suicide.
I mean, the Korean War. I mean, okay, we're going down a rabbit hole. That's we don't need to do that. Okay, what else you got on India, Pakistan before we pivot?
What else do I have in India, Pakistan? India has been on the fence with the US for a long time. We have been begging them to join. I mean, we renamed Indo-PACOM. I mean, we renamed PACOM, which was like the military in the Pacific region, to Indo-PACOM, just to try to court them. We've been doing everything to court them. Why? Because India doesn't like Pakistan, which we also don't like. India doesn't like China. Why aren't we good partners with India? Because they do like Russia, and they're sitting on the fence between us and Russia. They won't pick a side. Almost very similar to Turkey, except
Yep, yep.
except India is much more valuable because they have 1 billion people, a huge economy, and they've made great strides in technology and in the space, and so we would like them to be, our biggest ally in the region, um, but they won't pick a side. And
And
I
smart on
think
them, honestly. I think they're using both sides
it's
to the maximum
very
capability.
smart on them. Yes, I think we should be using this to try to court India. I think it's probably more valuable to us than Russia, Ukraine, because what does Ukraine bring to us? You know, that's
Minerals.
maybe that's my hot take. Yeah, as of like 3 days ago, they said they'd give us minerals. We'll
Sure,
see
but
how
yeah, but also
see
all
how
of our
far it
NATO
goes.
allies and in the beginning of the war or beginning of the conflict, whatever you want to call it, there was a real genuine fear that Russia would march straight through Ukraine and be on Poland's border. And let me tell you, NATO cared a lot about having Russia on NATO's border, and they want to do everything they could to stop that, which they have because
Uh,
of what the actions they've taken.
Yeah, MR, we know how much this current administration cares about NATO.
Well, that's different because you're asking. We got involved over 2 years ago, right? This administration just took over.
No, no, sure, but that's what I'm saying. The current administration, I think, should say, "Oh, India, what do you need from us?"
Yeah, there's some truth there. I mean, Pakistan. Someone fact check me. I'm pretty sure we were donating or giving like billions of dollars to Pakistan, which blows my mind because they literally were sheltering Bin Laden. Like, you guys remember when Bin Laden was assassinated, murdered, killed, whatever, finally killed? It was in Pakistan. Like, you just can't make this shit up.
Yeah, well, I mean, Doge has revealed that we've been giving millions and billions of dollars to pretty much everyone.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So we're already 15 minutes in, and I do want to talk about some other topics. But first, fact check myself. Russia detonated its first nuclear weapon on August 29th, 1949. So I was off by like 3-4 years. So that's on me.
But to be fair, like like we ended World War II. The next conflict was Korean War, which was what, 55?
50 to 53. So they
So
already had
there,
a nuke.
by the time we were in another conflict, we had a gun pointed to our head.
And that was right on their doorstep too.
Yep,
Even though I'm pretty sure McCarthy wanted to use nukes and just like
MacArthur.
nuke all of it. MacArthur, yeah, thank you. I know I'm thinking of the Red Scare right now with McCarthy.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, all right. So last episode we talked a little bit about Canada, and maybe it's not that good of a topic, which is why not a lot of people are listening. But I do think it's incredibly important, and we should talk about it. They are our neighbors. We are their largest trade partner, as in they trade the most with us compared to them exporting to other countries. And what they do does affect us, whether we care to admit it or not. Outside of just seeing memes and videos on like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or whatever. And so, CK, to what we were talking about last time, Mark Carney, the liberal leader of the Liberal Party, won shockingly because only 6 weeks, 7 weeks prior, they were projected to lose everything. But they didn't win the seats. So they still have a minority government with only 169 out of 343 seats. I can't remember if you mentioned that last time or not. But just real key issues that led to their victory. Uh, it was their economy, which they're not going to really help that at all, which is why they're in the predicament that they're in, and overall protests against Donald Trump. So essentially, Canada hates Donald Trump, or the majority of Canadians hate Donald Trump so much that they didn't want to go with their conservative party because they feared their conservative party would align too closely to Donald Trump. And I'm not saying they're not justified for not liking Trump. I mean, if a president came over from a different country, a prime minister, and was like, "Oh, America, you belong to us now," I wouldn't be
Yeah.
happy about that either. So
Plus the
I
tariffs.
plus the tariffs impacting their economy, like it's not a win for Canada. Um, but it still doesn't seem like a smart move for Canada for hiring Mark Carney and keeping essentially the party, which has already been in power for 10 straight years, in power long enough. And CK, before I turn it over to you, I'm going to use my favorite quote of all time: absolute power corrupts absolute. When you have a party and for that long with zero checks and balances, they become corrupted, they make terrible decisions, and as you can look at the Canadian economy and the decisions that they've made, almost every single Canadian is worse off today than they are 10 years ago. That's just a fact. Whether people want to look themselves in the mirror and admit that, their money doesn't go as far, they can't do as much, they can't buy a house. Their housing market's like significantly worse than the United States, and ours is pretty bad. So you kind of said a lot there, but where's your mind just trying to like wrap up this whole Canadian thing before Trump starts duking it out with Mark?
First thing I wanted to ask you if you knew. Joe Rogan offered to have Pierre Poilievre on his podcast before this election,
No,
and
I didn't
his
know that.
team declined and said it would be too problematic.
They are no wonder they lost. Like
Yeah,
what? That's one
I,
reason Donald Trump won.
yeah, it's like problematic to who? Who's your base? And so,
Seriously.
but I mean, I think Poilievre. I think I said this in my conspiracy last time. I think he was just kind of a pawn, and I don't think he really fought back that hard, and I don't even think he cared that he lost. He's the same guy, when there was a big trucker protest, um, he was against the truckers, and that was the conservative movement during COVID, the big
Yep, I
trucker
remember that.
protest. He backed the government and helped like freeze their bank accounts.
Yep.
So I don't know. I think conservative in name only. I think maybe a wolf in sheep's clothes for the Conservative Party in Canada. But
I mean, it almost has to be if they blew that big of a lead and they weren't able to execute. It's got to be like the greatest. It's like the Warriors being up 3-1 against the Cavs. That's the biggest blown lead in the
I
history of
knew you would do
politics.
something like that. I gotta walk away now. I'll see you guys. No, um, yeah. So I don't know how you decline to go on Joe Rogan, especially if you're conservative, because that's kind of
Seriously.
that's your base. Um, But what are we going to see from Canada? I think we see it in Europe already, and I think we would have seen it from the United States if the Democratic Party won. And a lot of that is censorship of free speech. Carney's already said we need to go on war on hate speech. And if you think about it, a war on hate speech is just what is the liberals? What's the term? Dog whistle.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, it's just a dog whistle for censorship
Yep.
because like Elon puts it best. He says if you don't support if you don't have
All
the freedom of
speech.
speech that even the speech if you don't protect speech you don't like, then what's the point?
Yeah. Yep.
And so they're already talking censorship. So you're going to get more of that, which again, we're seeing with Europe, more migration, more, I think exactly what you're seeing in the UK and Germany and France is what you're seeing in Canada.
Yeah, no, I think that's super fair, and I just think it's going to be a lot more rocky road for Canadians. That relationship with the United States isn't going to get any better. Again, whether you love or hate Donald Trump, it doesn't matter. If we just look at the reality of the situation, it's not looking to get better for Canada, which kind of pivots me to my next talking point here is everything developing about Alberta. So there's
Yep.
no secret in the United States that Texas every now and then wants to become its own country. One When you talk about Texas, it's Texas. It's not a southern state. It's not a Midwestern state. It's not a southwestern state. Texas is Texas, just like Florida's Florida. Florida's not a southern state. It's just Florida. And so it seems like Alberta is hopping on that bandwagon as well of trying to succeed from Canada. Now, it's obviously different than the United States, and they have to, vote, and who knows if Canada will even allow them. But I cannot remember in my lifetime ever reading anything where any Canadian province wanted to become its own country. Now, Alberta is incredibly conservative, like the most conservative part of Canada. Now, I don't think they'll actually break away from Canada. I just don't think. I think Canada would intervene. They just wouldn't let it happen. There's too many resources. There's too many things in Alberta to allow them to step away.
Yeah.
But
Alberta's keeping Canada afloat.
exactly.
Alberta nets 244 billion for
Woo!
Canada. The rest of the provinces combine like a loss of like 500 billion.
So they're working at a deficit of 300 billion.
That's from 2007 to 2022. But like they're the moneymaker. They're the breadbasket. They are the economy of Canada.
But if Trump really wanted to stick it to Canada and really get what he wanted, now I've been pretty vocal this entire time is that Canada as a whole cannot become a 51st state, and I'm not supporting that. By the way, you would have to
Yep.
break it up into provinces, and it'd be like 7 more states to the union. But if Alberta wanted to become a state, Donald Trump is the president to make that happen. I 100% think he is going to use this and leverage it as much as possible, get whatever he wants from Canada, or actually support it. And I think Alberta becoming its own country and then becoming a state in the United States is greater than 5%. And I say that, CK, because you want to know one of the main reasons why Puerto Rico is a territory and not a state?
Why is that?
Because it'll throw off the balance of power in Congress and the Senate. Adding Puerto Rico would mean another liberal state for the Democrats, which would give them more power, more electoral votes. It would change everything. But if you add a liberal and a conservative state at the same time, they offset each other. And if they're roughly around the same size, so you're adding the same number of seats in Congress, then it balances and it makes it very digestible for both parties to approve.
I think Trump would do it without Puerto Rico if he could in a heartbeat. The first step would be Alberta to officially secede. They've put in a petition to secede. It has to get, I think, 180,000 signatures, which, if you think about it, is not that many.
It's not.
And then it has to go to vote. I think they need like 2/3, and that's where it's not gonna happen.
Well, that's why I think you're going to have a lot of corruption and doing everything possible to rig that election so it doesn't happen. I mean, again, I say greater than 5%, but I wouldn't put a dime betting.
Yeah, it's not zero. I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on this Canada? Because we probably won't talk Canada for, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks until Trump does something.
No, it was very interesting to see Trump and Carney meet in the White House. It wasn't as strained as Zelensky's visit to the White House, but for
Yeah, that
sure,
was legendary.
Trump, I do respect him for saying like exactly what he wants to their face. And he was like, Carney, we don't want your automobiles anymore. We're going to produce them here. We don't want your steel anymore. We're going to produce them here. What that probably means for you is that you're not going to have a market for automobiles and steel anymore because we're your biggest customer, and we're going to figure out how to be independent of your products.
So,
It might hurt you, but too bad.
with that being said, absolutely Europe cannot take on, as much as Europe wants to be close to Canada, whether you're talking about the Quebec region and France and the rest, with the UK. Europe has zero means to take on that load of steel and vehicles. They
Even
literally cannot.
even even if they had the means. Why would Germany want them to cut into German automobiles?
True.
And they have their own. Everyone's been pretty much expecting the US to be the customers. And so
Yep.
if if the US leaves the table, someone else has to do it. But everyone is selling, not buying, and no one wants to be the buyer.
Yep. Yeah, it puts Canada in a really, really bad spot. I don't know what's gonna happen with them. I, dude, I don't know, man.
I'll tell you what. None of this stuff is bad in 4 years. So it depends on whether it's a Vance ticket in 2028 or it's a Gavin Newsom ticket in 2028. I think most of Europe and Canada and the Democratic Party, they're holding their breath till midterms and they're holding breath to 2028 and just hoping they can wait out the storm. That's the expectation, because none of these policies are going to hurt in the long run, just from 4 years of it. But 8 years or 12 years, it would change the world.
I definitely think it'll hurt, but I don't think it's game over for a country.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think that's fair. All right, let's pivot over to something that was pretty big headlines the end of last week, I think is when it was, and that's Mike Waltz's dismissal. So on May 1st, President Donald Trump dismissed his national security advisor, Mike Waltz, following a series of conversations using Signal, wherein Mike Waltz inadvertently included journalist Jeffrey Goldberg in a Signal group chat discussing classified military operations in Yemen. Dude, I still can't even say that with a straight face because it's the most insane thing ever.
Yeah, and it got worse.
And it got so much worse. The security lapse raised serious concerns within the administration. Additionally, Waltz's hawkish stance on Iran, including advocating for military action, conflicted with Trump's preference for diplomatic solutions, furthering straining their relationships. Despite his dismissal, Trump nominated Waltz as the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, a move seen by some as strategic reassessment rather than a complete severance. CK, what are your thoughts here? Is Mike Waltz the right fall guy? Should have been Pete Hegseth. What are your thoughts here?
Well, Mike Waltz didn't get fired for the first signal. He got fired for the second signal. He was caught using Signal in a press briefing, and he was caught. I think the rumor is he was caught talking to Netanyahu and other high figures in the Israel government.
How dumb is this guy? Like, how is he in this position? Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, how? I think that's why he's in this position.
Because he's dumb.
No, because he supports Israel. I think one of the biggest issues that's also one of the most under-addressed issues is Israel's funding of American politicians. You have the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Just almost every single candidate, both Republican and Democrat. There's a few. Ilhan Omar is obviously not funded by AIPAC. Thomas Massie is not funded by AIPAC. But there's a lot of money that Israel, not directly but indirectly, like the government of Israel indirectly funds U.S. politicians. And there's a ton of Trump cabinet picks that are funded by Israel. Waltz is a huge one.
So what does that all mean then? That Israel's little puppet master and we're just following it? That tiny little country with only a few million people, an economy the size of Florida?
It depends on, well, you can say the economy the size of Florida. And
I don't know if that's actually true. I'm just guessing.
We'll border on the conspiracy corner here, but like...
Ooh, are we entering CK's conspiracy corner?
This is a scary one to enter, but I mean, if you think about the CEOs in America and Hollywood and like the billionaire class in America, a lot of them are Jewish and they're American, and nothing wrong to be an American Jewish person who supports Israel, but like,
okay, yep.
Think about the power that yields when you can say Israel itself doesn't have this power, but all of the wealthy people in the United States, not all, but a huge percent, when you talk about like, they're like 1% of the population or something, the percentage of billionaires that are Jewish and supporters of Israel is way higher than, that 1% demographic. And when they throw around their weight and their influence in politics, because billionaires, obviously, I think both sides will agree that billionaires have a lot of influence in politics. It goes a long way. And so for a lot of people, it's political suicide to say anything against Israel.
Yeah, I mean, there may be some truth to that. I'm not definitely down that same conspiracy theory as you are. I definitely agree though in the because it's just factual. So I'll agree with you on the facts that Israel supports candidates on both sides and they spend a lot of money, like a lot of money. So they definitely are trying. And isn't this the issue with our politics overall that almost every politician inherently becomes corrupt, and this is almost how Trump was able to get at least initially got a lot of support because he was already a billionaire and he didn't need corporations' money, so he wasn't bought out by lobbyists. Is that not the biggest knock towards politicians? Well,
Yeah.
if you want to run re-election, you're going to need $10 million, and these three super PACs are going to donate to you. Oh, in order to get these $10 million, you have to do X, Y, and Z for us. That's the corruption in our modern day politics.
But what's worse, being bought out by Amazon or being bought out by a foreign government?
Sure, okay, I think that's a super fair way of
And
looking at it.
if you're in cabinet meetings, texting answers to foreign governments, and like the reports were that Mike Waltz was trying to influence Trump to do a conflict in Iran and to support a conflict in Iran on behalf. He was influencing Trump on behalf of Israel. Like, is that not treason? Where's the borderline treason?
So if everything you're saying is true, right, which I put everything with a grain of salt, then yeah, that's horrible. He should be tried on trial. He should go on trial. Like, you can't do that. That's horrible.
Do you know where Mike Waltz? What happened to him?
He just became the ambassador to the UN.
Yeah. What is that? So he commits soft treason, and Trump, the guy who fires everybody, just
this is the conspiracy.
Door.
You're saying that Israel's got dirt on Trump, or they got some leverage? Be like, hey, you can't take out our boy completely.
Trump's pro-Israel. They're all the cabinet. I don't even think it's a conspiracy. That cabinet is pro-Israel, and that cabinet is heavily, all of the cabinet, including Trump, heavily received donations from AIPAC.
But not enough to do what Mike Waltz wants and to launch strikes on Iran.
Well, I mean, Trump still walks to the beat of his own drum, I think. No one owns Trump because a lot of people argue that. A lot of people will say Trump is owned. Trump is definitely influenced. I think Trump, out of all the people, is his own man.
Yeah, let's dive into that one real quickly because I think out of most podcasts we're pretty kind to Trump and we don't always take shots at him. So I'll give a positive and I'll take a massive shot at him that I wasn't cool with on a deal. Oh, there's a lot of things I'm not, but just talk this one because it's very recent. Yes, at the end of the day, Trump will do whatever Trump wants, and if people are saying, "Oh, he's controlled by the Russians," okay, no, he's not. Can he be influenced very easily? Yeah, but then he'll get to a point where he'll feel like he's being played, or he'll feel like something, and then he'll just go to left field and just do fucking something no one would ever expect, right?
F-bomb from MR. Sorry, viewers.
Yeah, seriously, close your ears. But one thing that there's things that he does. I talked about it in a few episodes where he did the golden visa thing. I'm like, what? And he'll say some of the most insane things you can ever hear. But CK, why? Why would he post an AI picture of him as the Pope? So the Pope passed away.
Yeah.
America, there's a lot of Catholics in America. So over 1 billion Catholics in the world. A lot of Catholics probably just from a religious standpoint make up a large demographic of his people that support him. Why would you insult the papacy, like that? Like, I cannot understand why he would do that. I don't know a single Catholic that's like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Like, what?
I know a lot of Catholics that have said that. That's
wait, actually?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
It was awful. I mean, it's not the end of the world, I guess.
Sure. But yes, it's not the end of the world.
But again, it's like, why would you do that? And maybe I think Trump loves playing the role of Democrat troll. It's like one of his favorite things to do, and he enjoys it so much. And he also knows that a lot, I would say 80% of his followers I mean, I think he said in 2016 when he was running, if I shot them in the street, they would cheer for me. Like
Yeah,
the
giving off
people,
Homelander vibes.
he has the strongest like base, and he can do no wrong to his base. And so, and maybe part of it also like he's not running again.
I know, but like,
I it's such poor taste. It was awful. I say all that to say I hated it, and I think it's disgusting, and I think he should have apologized, which he'll never do.
no, he won't. He won't. But yeah, anyways, you got to call a spade a spade. You know, he'll do things that are good and he'll do things that make no sense. And, you know, if we want to come off as non biased as possible, which I think we really strive to do, that's where we're at. But
Yeah,
CK,
what do I
what
hate?
else?
Wait, but what do I hate more? That picture of him as a pope, or their unquestioning loyalty to the Israeli government?
Oh,
Uh,
I thought you
the
were going to say,
latter.
I thought you were going to say not releasing the Epstein files and that whole conspiracy.
Oh yeah, we can use that as a conduit. I do hate that the most.
Yeah, I know. When we were talking about our biggest issues, that was one of yours. I was like, I feel like national debt's bigger, but sure. I want to know who killed Epstein.
Yeah, well, those conspiracies might be tied, but you didn't hear that from me.
All right. Do you have any more conspiracies that you want to hit on? Do you want to go down that FC route again?
I do because actually news came out. So James O'Keefe, many might know him. He was the founder of Project Veritas. He has since moved on to the O'Keefe Media Group. If anyone doesn't know who Project Veritas is, just Google it. What they do is pretty much almost every time how it goes is some girl gets a high cabinet member drunk at a bar and records, and then just he spills the beans, and it almost works. It's hilarious because like the guy almost every time says, "You're not one of those Project Veritas people, are you?" And she's like, "No, no," and then he just tells her, "Okay, good," because all the dead babies are buried in the backyard. It's
God.
like they've actually made some. It's pretty funny to watch, but he just
You know that's because they have very, very guilty consciences. When you get drunk and you just spill like that, you got some demons on your shoulders.
for sure, and you just love telling people. So he a week ago he posted like a cryptic video. It was like, I have something on Epstein. I'm going dark because my life's in danger. I'll post on the 7th. It's been, everyone's been waiting for this release. I thought it was underwhelming, but it's not nothing, because
Okay.
what he said, and maybe he hasn't released yet, was that someone in the Trump administration was burying the Epstein case.
Not Trump, but someone in the administration.
Yes. So
Okay.
a lot of people reported that it was Pam Bondi. It would make total sense with the way she's running with it. But and he has video proof of leaked video. That none of that's come out, so I won't report on that other than it's a juicy conspiracy, and I still believe it to be true. But what did come out was, just like I said, this girl talking to a drunk guy at a bar and him just leaking. He released a video footage of John Bryan, who is a longtime advisor to the royal family, and he admits that Prince Andrew was absolutely having sex with an underage woman with Jeffrey Epstein. Prince Andrew was, asked about this many, many, many times and vehemently denied it over
Of
and over and
course.
over again,
Obviously.
as everyone did. But this guy who is like, there's pictures of them together. There's pictures of him and the royal family, just like he's just like, yeah, he absolutely was. I was so mad when he lied. He was doing it all the time. He was out in sea in the Navy and he was lonely, and then he would call up Epstein, and he would go have sex with like multiple underage girls. Now, there was a whistleblower that came forward. I forget her name. I need to know her name because it's not fair. Uh, but she came forward and said Andrew raped me when I was underage. She died by suicide, like right after
I,
that happened.
I did see that actually. I did see that pop up on the news.
So that's been coming back up.
And everything she was saying was like, "Hey, I'm not suicidal. I've never wanted to kill myself." You know, everything a person says right before they kill themselves. You know, like, yeah, this she didn't actually kill herself.
Yeah. So if you ask me, Prince Andrew and the royal family, Prince Andrew absolutely did. The royal family absolutely buried it and covered it up. How much more involved there, I have no idea. But it is my opinion that it's most likely that he did it. It is also my opinion that nothing will come of this because nothing ever comes from this. And then that's the disgusting world that we live in. I also believe that Pam Bondi's probably bearing, but I don't have any proof of that yet. She came out today and said they are going through 10,000 videos of Epstein with
Oh my
children,
gosh. Oh
or
my
of
gosh.
Epstein filming child pornography, and that they have tons of files. I thought the dirt was about to come up on her, and she was trying to, you know, get ahead of it and say, "No, I'm doing something." That's more conspiracy stuff for me. Another conspiracy. I'm sorry, I'm on a roll.
You are
MR.
on a roll. Let it roll, man. Let it roll. If anyone's still listening, we appreciate you.
Former housing official Catherine Austin Fitts. She said she was on the Tucker Carlson show, and a lot of people don't like Tucker Carlson, but
You don't say.
she worked in housing, I think housing and urban development HUD, and she said the government diverted $21 trillion to build underground city networks for the rich and powerful. What's evidence? Probably none, but
Where at? What state? What country?
like all over, like I think 180 different cities. If you go
Oh my
really deep,
gosh.
there's been this theory for a while. If you want to like go into some interesting, like again, there's zero proof, but it's like a really good story. Like if you want to go down some rabbit holes, look up like the Denver airport.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've seen those. I've
Yeah,
seen those.
all of that stuff. So like everyone at the Denver airport like was like, "I told you so." I've been calling this. Alex Jones is having a field day. All these guys are loving their life, but I thought it was interesting. She worked in the government. Tucker Carlson, you can say what you want, but he's not nobody. He's prominent media.
I agree. He is prominent media. But no, to your point, like out of everything you said, look, I have my own conspiracies. I'm not going to jump on yours and pretend like I'm up to date and down those rabbit holes with you. But if I was a betting man, I would bet that there are underground towns, bunkers. I don't know if cities, because that sounds just like from an ability to actually create that very challenging. Because we
Yeah,
don't have any normal cities.
she said cities and I think transportation between cities.
Dude, if they have underground transportation between cities, can you like at least share that technology with the boring company or someone else to make
21 trillion is a lot of money, MR.
I mean, at this point, numbers are just a lie. Money's not real. Money either means something or it doesn't. Oh my gosh. All right, CK, anything else before we wrap this one up?
No. Yeah.
I hope you tapped out.
that I'm unleashed. I hope we get some comment fights because I'll just bring my tinfoil hat and I'll go to war.
Yes, please. If you've made it this far, please leave a comment. One, they help so much with the algorithm. I'm pretty sure someone commented on a video and be like, "Your hates fuel this video," and I'm just be like, "Bro, you're right, but don't scare the comments away because we need them." But no, thank you everyone for listening to the episode. I think it's definitely important for us to keep an eye on everything happening in Pakistan and India. I personally don't view it as escalating too greatly, just because mutually assured destruction. Talking is hard. I'm fading. Like I said, I'm sick. Canada, obviously, we're going to talk about them again as things develop. Hopefully not next week because you guys are probably all Canada out. I don't know. I was trying to do a pun there. And then, as always, we got CK and his Conspiracy Corners. But thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you so much. Let's get another 150. Like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Please leave a comment. And thank you all for listening.